Our hero lies on the ground, exhausted and with no hope left. And can you believe it all began when he got knocked over by a monster that was just supposed to be nothing more than a line of code? That was the moment when his 17th year was coming to a close. Or that was what he believed would happen. We travel back 3 months to a time when a volcano was spewing fire and smoke. Down there, two people stand their ground as a shielded dragon charges straight at them. The blonde guy shouts a warning to Naoki that a fierce attack is coming and tells him to be careful as the monster charges to smash the shield man. Man, I thought the kid would last a bit longer, but then the shield shattered against the wall, dropping his health straight to 1. The system warns that super resistance is on and 46 opponents are still alive, while Naoki, lying on the ground, admits this always makes his heart race. Then the blonde guy rushes in, giving Maya a thanks as he shouts that he just made the perfect opening for her. He slashes with his sword, and the dragon melts away into a digital mess. With that, the blonde guy hits level 20 and shouts that the long wait for his class change is finally over. The blonde guy, Hiroi, is a level 20 warrior. Naboki admits he can't keep using his older brother as a tanker, because even though it was just a game, watching his brother drop to 1 HP every time was genuinely scary. He stood up and decided that was enough leveling for the day, since he had to head off to work. Naoki says his goodbyes with a smile, promising to help his brother get stronger tomorrow, even though he knows his brother is making a face right now, because he's certain his brother will become the #1 player one day. The blonde man gave a grateful nod, promising that if anything like that happens, their boy will climb right to the very top, with them both standing at the peak together. But then, the scene jumps to a guy lying in a hospital bed with VR goggles on his eyes. The TV news said experts were invited to talk about a problem in the popular online game Genesis Chronicles. Whether you're in Tokyo, Paris, or Rio de Janeiro, that day was the first month since the accident began. The news crew is hunting for the cause and looking for any way to fix it. The old man claims this crash feels like a terror attack by the developers, who are holding the players hostage. Since the trouble began, you can't leave the game, and anyone who gets hurt inside feels the pain right here in real life. And when their HP hits 0 in the game, they actually die in the hospital. Man, it's been ages since we've seen a Sword Art Online story like this. But hey, could this be the start of a classic? It turns out this virtual reality headset causes serious trouble, and people even die if they try to take it off. Standing outside the hospital room with his fists tight, the protagonist cried out that it was all his fault. He gave the VR headset to his younger brother for his birthday, but the old man on TV says there's no fix, so anyone watching must tell everyone not to log into that game under any circumstances. But back at his home, our hero is ready to finally take that step. He knows that stepping into the game could easily mean his death. Just like he always did with Hyoki every day, he now knows his little brother is trapped inside. Even though he looked grown up in the game, he was really just a 12-year-old kid. If he walked away and let him die alone, he would never forgive himself. So he snaps the VR headset on and declares he's going to save him. Right now, screams are echoing through the forest. A chubby bunny girl and a tanned human are running for their lives. Though the poor guy trips over a rock and faceplants into the ground, Mommy watches. Even his body in the hospital twitched a bit, and he rose all trembling and crying, begging not to die this way. But as he turns to look behind him, something slips right past his ear. Oh man, look at me using fancy words like temple. I'm getting all scholarly, huh? From far away, it looked like a giant wolf was licking him. High in the branches, countless others waited above. The plump bunny girl stands there shaking uncontrollably, sobbing in terror that she won't survive this way. The game ended, but the real loss happens when you walk out of the hospital. The beeping finally quieted down, and now the floor was hers to step onto. No one knows there is no way to escape when 3 wolves suddenly leap at her, but from far away, Chad arrives with his shield. Just as she was about to die, he jumped in front of the pack and took the first wolf's bite, though it wasn't a clean save since he ended up flying through the air right along with Minnie. He hurled them far away and triggered his super resistance, which can be used 9,999 times. And with that, he was left with just a single hit point. He was beaten down and barely hanging on. But hey, being mostly alive is a hell of a lot better than being dead. He checked if the girl was okay, and after she thanked him and warned him to watch his own health, he laughed and said he was fine because it was just a special skill he had. This was a secret power of his class. Whenever he took a fatal hit with more than 70% health left, he would miraculously bounce back to just 1 HP. Knowing that hitting 0 meant he'd die for real, it was absolutely terrifying. He swallows the potion and admits that this real pain will never feel strange to him anymore. The trouble is that our boy made this account just to have fun with his brother and help him level up, so he's way behind most other players. And on top of that, Hyoki wasn't even nearby, so he was lucky to find her and manage to save her. He tells the girl to run to the village while he creates a distraction, But when he reaches the bushes and sees a giant creature that has killed all the wolves, he realizes it is a deadly monster called Jackrex, a mix of a jackal and a T-Rex, and knows that if it spots them, survival will be nearly impossible. The moment he thinks it, the monster's eyes snap right to him. He dashes to shield the bunny girl just as the beast's claw whistles past her. But fighting this mob is a gamble because its attacks come from nowhere. And right then, I saw the beast slam its tail into a rock, sending a piece flying straight at the two people trying to run away. A heavy block slammed shut, cutting off their way, and as Naoki glanced back, he saw the monster winding up to whip its tail at them again. The attack looked like it landed for real, yet when the tail rose, the King Tanker Man was still standing with one hit point alive, which is what counts, proving that at that moment he had already used his ability 10,000 times, not counting down but simply tallying how many times he'd done it. But in that very moment, Noi knew for sure that no matter how many potions he drank, he couldn't create enough time or a way to escape the monster. What makes it worse is that he hasn't heard a single word from his brother and isn't even sure if he's still alive. In a last-ditch effort, he lunges forward to punch the boss right as the monster leaps in to bite him. But this is a manwalk, and you can't just let him die now, so something has to happen and his special skill activates. Once his health fell to just 110,000, he finally awakened the desperate soul within. Suddenly, he felt a strange energy surge through him, and his hand began to glow with golden light. The moment the boss's tooth hit his fist, the monster vanished in a shower of blood and shattered into a billion pieces, just like in those One Punch Man stories. He and the bunny girl stood frozen, both completely baffled by what had just happened. The attackers nicknamed the path for the train. He stood there, eyes wide on his hand, still trying to make sense of what just happened. As the bunny girl wonders why he's hiding such a cool ability, he tells her he has no clue how it started working. Suddenly, a window appeared and gave him a brand new power, so he checked his system, upgraded his desperate soul skill to the limit, and when his energy hit one, his attack shot up to an insane 99.999. But after just 3 minutes, everything would snap back to normal, a powerful trick that was also a deadly gamble since his special shield only worked when he had at least 70% of his health, leaving him instantly dead if a tiny skeleton knocked him down to one last point. Turns out everyone in the story can see the system windows, and the bunny girl says she's never seen anything like it before. Naoki explains that since he started playing, he's only helped one person level up, which is why he's so low-leveled, has blocked so many times, and has been left with just 1 HP so often. He's sure his skill will help Roy. But right then, the bushes before them start shifting and 3 more wolves step out. I expected a sneaky little bunny girl, but now I see she's just a clueless girl screaming in panic. Now our boy had the confidence to face whatever came his way. He was still stuck at 1 hit point with his fist glowing, thinking he was ready to fight until he punched and nothing happened at all. At that exact second, he bolts away with her, because if he lets her lick him, he'll die. As he runs, he mutters that he has no clue why it won't start. That's when he realizes the problem isn't that the skill didn't work, but that 30 minutes have already passed since its first use, leaving him stuck with 1 health point and unable to reactivate Desperate Soul until the cooldown ends. The window doesn't say anything about that, but I'm going to trust the protagonist, even though running from creatures with just 1 hit point isn't going to be easy, especially when the bunny girl suddenly breaks free from his arms and dashes to the side. He is just about to ask her what she's doing, but when he looks, he sees her munching on some grass. He yells at her to quit her crazy tricks, but right then her mana begins to fill up again. She taps his chest, uses a clone trick to make 2 of them, and suddenly the copies dance in front of the wolves before darting off in a new direction, proving that even clever little tricks can work together perfectly to keep the story moving. Obviously, the 2 real ones are still lying there, completely worn out. Sometime later, in the first village by the fountain, a strange bunny girl named Aio Rabiko introduces herself as a level 13 mage, a bizarre twist for a creature that should just be cute. At least our hero is simple, like Navoki, a level 8 tanker, which makes things clear, and now we meet. One is thanking the other while the other just stands there like a fool, claiming that without him she would have died, and then switching it up to say the same thing about him. He tells her how herbs restore mana, but she asks if he's a beginner because she doesn't know that yet. She finds it crazy that 2 greenhorns bailed each other out and nearly died in the process. But right then, she realizes she actually came close to dying and starts weeping from sheer terror. Naoki gently strokes her head, showing he completely understands what's happening. At any second, one of them could actually have died there. That's why this cursed world stopped being just a game. Genesis Chronicles Online was a massive multiplayer game played by over 300 million people worldwide, which is more people than many entire countries have. And of course, it was famous for letting you roam freely in a world you could really get lost in. But suddenly the game changed, turning the monsters into savage attackers that hunted players one by one until it felt like a nightmare of dying. Yet everyone loved the big challenge it became. That's when he and his brother came up with a daring plan for our boy to stay alive by keeping his health at 1. but it takes real skill and smart thinking so he doesn't die a foolish death. The bunny girl was right there cheering on his awesome move, shocked that he could wipe out a monster with just one hit. For a brief second, she felt he was just like Kuroki. That is the name of his brother, man. He immediately grabs her shoulders and asks if she knows him. She admits that since he's talking about Kuroki, the famous hero king who once saved her when the game began, she has to agree with him. He asks if she can reach him, and she says yes since his number is saved in her contacts. Our boy couldn't use that feature yet because he wasn't high enough in rank when they played together. He asked her to tell Hiroki that his big brother was right there with her. Suddenly, a notification pops up just as Kuroki starts swiping through monsters like a blur. But a horned monster asks if he thinks that's right, tells him to open the message and reply, and then he finds Hiroi face to face with a terrifying four-armed final boss being warned that this is his last chance to leave a message for someone. But Hiroi says he'll hold off on sharing his victory story until later. Back at the fountain, she tells Hina that he's probably too busy to reply, but since they can see where he is, they should head over and check it out. He agrees it's a brilliant plan and urges them to leave immediately, knowing for sure he'll race to stop his brother from dying. Hiroi stood face to face with the boss, glowing with his aura and swinging his sword. But the creature just laughs, claiming he truly has an amazing spirit. Hiroki's strength vanishes, sending him crashing to the ground where he skids away. The boss walks up with the dragon and sets down on the ground. He cheers on the boy as a real hero, while his rival, the still-growing level 63 demon king named Zell, proves that even that level isn't that high after all. And he says the boy truly lives up to his title. Man, Hiroki has already hit level 65 and he is truly the king of grinding. Now I finally get what Hiroki meant. That thing isn't a monster at all, but a PK player dressed up as a demon king. The real trouble was riding a dragon that was way too strong, a level 58 beast that made his job incredibly hard. Watching the strange energy radiating from this man, which feels just like the power he's seen in the wild beasts nearby, he begins to wonder if this is the one making all the chaos. He sighs deeply and declares that he is finally going to fix this mess. Zoe replies that he's actually pretty cool. That's when he spots a group of other adventurers over there, too, man. A crowd of curious onlookers just watched. The demon king chuckles and turns away, heading straight for them. Hiroi desperately tries to shout a warning and tell him to stop, but it's already too late as the boss has grabbed two of them by the face and unleashed a forbidden power called the Gate of Beasts. In the blink of an eye, the two of them snap and become a whole bunch of monsters. Furious, Hiroki leaps toward him, shouting that he must stop this person from messing with everyone. The trouble is he freezes for a split second, fearing that if he kills these guys here, they might actually die in the real world. So he sidesteps, slips through the gap between them, jumps toward the next target, vaults over him and lands right on Zell's back. He swings again and lands a solid hit right on the Demon King's chest. With a surge of anger, the creature orders the dragon to strike. Just as that happened, a man slashed a deep gash right into his dragon. A stoic Hyoki looks at the guy and asks in disbelief, "What on earth are you doing?" But I couldn't believe that this damn kid was this strong. And then he says he won't destroy this perfect world where there are no unfair advantages or pointless walls, only strong people living freely exactly as they deserve. Obviously, he loves such places and doesn't want to destroy them, but Hiroki screams that loving a spot that kills countless people makes no sense. Zell slams his hand down on the ground and declares that they clearly see things differently. Calling forth a horde of monsters, he declares that the vote is not for Hiroki. Right then, Hiroki realizes this man is changing countless people and creatures, so he lunges forward yelling, "You bastard!" Watching him battle surrounded by monsters, Zell can't help but wonder if this guy will actually make it. In this game, high levels don't promise a win, so he knows Hiroki could still turn the tables even with fewer allies. Just then, he noticed Hiroki hesitate, and that tiny moment of weakness was exactly what he needed to use against him. Hyoki slashes at the beasts swarming him from every angle, but after a few strikes, he realizes that Zell has slipped away. He springs up, scanning the area for her until his face shifts as the bunny girl suddenly appears nearby. Our boy points out the area, noting how many defeated monsters he has seen there. Just as suddenly, Zell pops up in front of them and reaches out to touch their faces. Man, look at that entire panel soaked in blood. The demon grins and says his attitude is truly admirable. Oh no, Hiroi is there bleeding from the mouth and asking if Noki is alright. The issue is clear. Zell's hand had pierced right through his chest, and even though Hyoki was desperate to save his brother, the protagonist never drops below 1 health point from a single hit. And there's our boy stepping in with all his drama, declaring he came into this world to save his brother at any cost, no matter what he has to do. But staring right at him is Kaelroi with a hole in his chest, and he can't believe what he's seeing. Before he can speak, Zell sweeps his arm sideways to tear the rest of Hiroki's shoulder away. A piece of his cloak hits the floor just as the Hero King's life force runs out. As his body slams onto the asphalt face first, the system declares that the Hero King has been defeated by Zell. That message popped up for every single person who had added the Hero King to their friends list. It looked like he had already saved everyone in the starting town. Down on the ground, he shouts Naoki's name. As he lies in the hospital bed, his heart suddenly stops beating. Zell stands there smiling and says that the hero is finally defeated. Naoki clumsily misses his punch, only to get punched in the face by the laughing demon, who calls him a friend of the Hero King and delivers a final, mocking apology. He presses his hand to the ground, calls forth a host of creatures, and promises to help him visit his brother. An explosion blasts right in front of Zell, and he grins with delight, shouting, "There goes another loser." But honestly, when he glanced to the side, a guy walked out of the smoke with full health. Zell is still a bit puzzled, trying to figure out how he made it through that. And of course, it wasn't just his talent that sparked it. The demon orders his minions to charge, but our hero casually waves a hand and slices one of them out of thin air. Now the demon sees it won't be so simple after all. He clenches his teeth, calls up even more monsters, and commands them all to attack the boy. Even though Naoki was surrounded on all sides by men, he still had 3 minutes of immunity. A second later, Zell wonders what just happened. Half his body was gone, and he never saw the thing that struck him. Our boy had pulled another railroad worker out of the dirt, leaving the demon confused because it couldn't believe someone so small could be this tough. Just as suddenly, Zell vanishes right before his eyes, leaving Naoki with only a puzzled guess as to where he could have gone. He wonders if Rubiko can help, but she just shakes her head and says no. And then she tells him to see that the desperate soul had already met its end. Wasn't that supposed to last 3 minutes? Felt like he threw just one punch and it was over, man. I guess it must have taken more than one hit to finish those monsters, right? It's just that the whole thing got wrapped up way too fast. So Izio admits that without his special power, they simply can't stand up to someone that strong. Naoki crashes to the ground, his voice tearing at the sky as he screams in rage. In the middle of the forest, Zell suddenly shows up with one arm gone. He throws the window wide and shouts out to a friend. Right away, he asks what the hell that attack was, since he'd never seen such ridiculous skill before, and when he guesses it's a cheat, the person simply says no, revealing instead that it's a secret talent called Desperate Soul. Zell suggests disabling it, but the person apologizes, explaining they can't interfere with others' powers and noting that only he can handle the boy since he isn't immortal. Z says it's okay because anyone who breaks the rules has to be taken out. Then we took a quick trip back to the starter village, where Naoki first started helping his brother get stronger. He was struggling to fight a tiny goblin, muttering that this was much harder than he expected. His brother shakes his head and says, "No way, goblins weren't the weakest monsters. But he should be able to kill at least one." Naoki complains, noting that he just set up the system and still doesn't know how to control the character right. His brother gives the all clear, then leaps on the goblin and cuts it in two before anyone can blink. He turns and tells Naoki that she'll have to learn to do these things herself. That was his only chance to save someone someday. So now back in his own village, our boy sits all alone and sad beneath a tree, as the round bunny girl stood there looking sad and staring at him. She says it's been a whole week now that he's been acting like this. "Man, you're stuck in that dark emo mood, and we need to snap out of it fast or Zell will level up all by himself in a week. You can't sit under the tree anymore." She insists it's all fixed, but he refuses to accept it because he knows he caused the mess. Staring at the cloak, he mutters to himself that he should have paid more attention when he played with his brother or that he should never have let him have the game. He's convinced that he's the one who killed Hyoki, and he knows it's his own fault. Isoi looks at the boy, then suddenly pulls him into a quick hug to tell him he doesn't have to blame himself. She was certain Hyoki wouldn't want that, since he was the one who loved playing the game the most. She used to love the hero vibe he had, but now she knows it came from watching his older brother. He thought he was hurting his brother by giving him the game, but that very act ended up saving countless lives. And she knows his brother wouldn't want to see him crying and feeling so down. Of course, he shouldn't let the past steal his future, so he must keep moving ahead. With that, the sad chapter of Naoki's story has finally come to an end. He wiped away his tears and promised that since his brother loved this world, he would never let it be destroyed. He turns to the tree and tells his brother, "I'll take your place and make sure what you wanted to protect stays safe." He writes down the hero's name and promises to help everyone in his place. And beyond that, he's going to get his revenge on Zell. He wasn't going to let this game end with a simple death. In the next scene, Naoki realized he had to keep leveling up, even though his soul was desperate, because he needed to strengthen every other part of himself. A monkey charges to punch him while he thinks he must get even stronger than Hiroki to honor his dead brother. He slips out of the way of the strike and admits he still needs to sharpen his fighting instinct. As he grows stronger, he can shield more players. Suddenly, the monkey lands a solid hit on him. But inside the smoke, Maoki is already using his Devipore Monstringo power. He reaches level 13, and right as I vow to save Hiroki, Izuo dashes past with a group of small monkeys hot on her trail. He's back to leveling up and has reached level 16. The moment the fight is over, he starts chugging potions and grinding his stats just to take down Danzel next. The trouble is that while he climbs the ranks, he knows Guy is playing the game and leveling up right alongside him. Not only that, but he's so much quicker that Naoki has to stay on his toes, especially when the other guy's power is recharging. Izuo always drew a swarm of monsters to help him farm, even though she acted like a complete fool. She apologizes and says she's scared, but Naoki tells her to use her magic and be confident. You could use teleportation and cloning in clever ways to get ahead. She explains that she picked those two specific things because they are the perfect tools for running away. Blushing, she tries to tell them she's just naturally scared of things. That's why, even after all this time in the game, she's still low level because you only gain experience when you land the final blow. He tells her not to worry because he's going to fight Cell alone, which basically means he expects her to either get stronger or stay out of the way. But she thinks that's crazy and insists he can't go it alone, so she decides she needs to get stronger and level up anyway. He tells her that if she wants to feel safer, she should try to get some better gear. As she looks down at her outfit, she realizes she's barely protected, but she can't afford armor, and even though a blacksmith could make one for her, they don't usually hang out in these beginner zones. He assures her not to worry, telling her she can head to the village and try to find one. A small dwarf with a mark on his forehead claims he knows a truly excellent blacksmith. They demand the truth immediately, and he admits it's just a rumor started by a phone call. Right away, Izuo jumps with excitement and asks if it's the real Eltz, but Novoki has no clue who that is, so she explains that the character Eltz from the game is actually the famous actress Tabesa Yamaha in real life, a name even Maoki knows well. She was famous not just for her movies, but also as a hardcore gamer with a channel boasting over 1.2 million subscribers, and she was even an incredible blacksmith. Naoki notices her excitement, and she tells him that Sububesa is her favorite actress. Then the little dwarf sighs and says it's a shame. Even though everyone says she's been around, he hasn't seen her face in 2 months, and the scene shifts to a cave where the blacksmith, Sububesa, is wiping sweat from her face as she gathers materials for the game. The problem is that everything drags on because she's always by herself. She needs other people to help her, but she is tired of relying on them. She snatches up her pickaxe and vows never to ask for help again. So let's try to guess what trauma drove her to this. She ran away from a group of friends who tried to force her into breaking the rules, and now she hates being in a group. So place your bets on who will be next, but don't copy my guess, you sly dog. Meanwhile, Naoki and the bunny girl walk through the woods, searching for her gear because they really need it. Izuo just laughs it off, but when the tree branches suddenly start twitching and a giant spider drops down to attack them, it's clear they're way more lost than they thought. She's shaking with terror, but Naoki stays cool, saying he'll just take one hit, drop to 1 hit point, and keep going until Aya warns him that the spider attacks 5 or 6 times in a row, meaning he'll hit 1 hit point and die instantly, so they both start running for their lives. After sprinting deep into the woods, they finally reached a sheer cliff where an invisible wall left them with no escape. That's exactly what I was about to tell you, isn't it? She snatched his hand and tumbled down with him. I'd do the same thing too. Even if he takes a nasty fall and drops to just 1 hit point, we both still make it through. Just before she crashes to the ground, she opens a portal and hurls them aside. She must have a short-range portal since she couldn't just open one from above, and the two of them are too exhausted and crying when someone suddenly appears before them. Or actually, right, they tumbled straight down in front of Elt while she was busy gathering materials. It looked like Io knew her instantly, so the girl had no choice but to stop pretending to be someone else. As soon as Igioa spoke the name, the girl turned and fled in a panic, a pickaxe strapped to her back. Our boy shouts to the Minecraft queen, begging her to lend a hand. They had to find a blacksmith for their tools. Suddenly, she halts, opens her inventory, and sends a storm of shields cascading down. From behind her shield wall, she tells them she doesn't want anyone to get involved with her. It wasn't just a quick shield. She built a wall so thick you couldn't break through it. Isangoa calls that move a classic trick, basically a bug. It turns out blacksmiths can pull items straight from their storage without spending them, and she's been exploiting this glitch to flood the area with endless gear. You could plainly see at least 100 of them piled up right in front of you. Izzy screams an apology, begging not to bother her, right when they hear footsteps coming up behind them. As they turned, they spotted the spider from before had crawled all the way down the mountain. Right, it's just a spider, you fools. You should have guessed it could climb down easily while those two panic and can't find where to run. So, Elf decides she has to pitch in and help out those little brats. She pushes the barrier away right as the spider is about to jump and strike. Suddenly, a swarm of portals bursts open above the creature, and the girl calls down an endless army of weapons to fight it. The objects tumble down in a messy, uneven pile, yet there are so many of them that they eventually crush the monster, and from behind, Elle shouts that she already saved their lives. She turned away, waving goodbye and declaring she didn't want to speak to anyone anymore. The piece was gone, leaving only the two of them behind. Yaoi says they're in big trouble because they not only failed to get close to her but actually made her angry. Sometime later, Elt walked into her cabin near a waterfall, dropped her crafted items on the floor, and sat down in a chair. She recalled a moment during her live stream when she promised viewers that she was about to find something truly rare. The crowd on the stream cheered as she promised to craft something awesome for one of her viewers. That was the day she tried to sign off, but for the first time, she found she couldn't leave anymore. A voice behind her shouted Sabesa Yamaha's name. It was definitely the most shady guy ever. He leaps in desperation, claiming that since they were trapped for good, this was their perfect chance. Before else could react, a crowd rushed in to pin the man down and reassure her that she was safe. Eventually, the truth crashed down on her. She was truly trapped inside the game. A group of players huddled in a room, their voices heavy with desperation, as they realized that those famous in our real world were now being hunted here simply because of their fame. That's why those supposedly nice guys decided to protect her, and honestly, nothing seemed out of the ordinary at all, did it? Suddenly, this guy gets all serious about guarding her. But Shitty snaps back and says she doesn't just want protection. She lifts her hammer, declaring her desire to help others stay safe by crafting useful items for everyone. The group got so excited that they all headed into the mountains to hunt for minerals to help her. They hung out by the campfire talking and went hunting in the woods. Not long after, everyone was all set and ready to go. But unfortunately, Elle's happiness didn't last long. One day while they were out hunting, they all ended up dead. Man, Danon, I lost my bet. What a curse, since no one guessed she would lose her party in such an honest, tragic way. Even that archer I thought was shady was actually sacrificing himself for her and telling her to run, so she finally escaped. She walked away, convinced it was all her fault because she couldn't fight well enough or make gear strong enough to keep them safe. In the end, she let everyone else die just so she could walk away alive. Oh my god, drama is arriving with two crybabies just like our main character. They're already the perfect pair. She remained the only one left in the dark cave, convinced she couldn't pull anyone else down this dangerous path. Then the scene shifts to Zell staring down a skeleton who tells him he is heading north. He spins around and orders his team to do their work right. You've got a tiny demon girl who's going to cause trouble and a huge guy who's going to be a real fight to beat. Their job was to get Else on their team. Both of them went green with excitement like crazy lunatics, promising they would follow the order. Back with our little squad still perched on that gloomy bench, just as two demons suddenly popped up outside. Meanwhile, Elsa stood up and said she had to grab a few more things. She really hoped she wouldn't bump into anyone this time. Wait, we already know who's hiding behind the waterfall. A huge boom blasts her, sending her flying across the ground. Man, when the demon human law handed out the mission, I figured they'd try acting friendly first, but nope, they just kicked the door right in. The two demons already waved a quick hello to the legendary blacksmith Else. She instantly realizes these men aren't just bad guys but demons, and the big one asks if she knows why a monster like him came after her. But he's not right, so before she can reply, he says he has a message from Mr. Zell. From now on, she would serve him, and the name Zell sounded familiar to her ears. That's the guy who's been walking around and killing players. The buff guy tells Zell that to make the world better, she has to forge the special gear he needs to make it happen. She would craft the deadly weapons meant to wipe out every single rebel. Altz doesn't seem thrilled about it at all. She checks what she has and agrees to the deal. However, she refused to use her powers to harm anyone, so instead, she raised a wall of shields. But man, the demon wrapped its arms around it and smashed everything to pieces. But when he looked again, she was gone, slipped away quietly like a worm through tunnels, convinced she refused to build weapons for killing, just like her old party had done. Just as she was about to explain how she makes the equipment, a sudden strange noise cut her off. Suddenly, a hand drops from above, cracks through the ceiling, and drags her straight through the hole. The burly man praised Enkidu for finally catching the little troublemaker. He steps up to her and tells her she can't win, though he admits her escape plan was truly amazing. Else sees that these men have smashed her entire cave, proving she will find it nearly impossible to escape them. The buff guy thinks she's too smart, so he needs a plan to make sure she can't get away. He gets a sudden idea and drives a dagger into the poor girl's leg. He even jokes that since she's a blacksmith, her legs won't be missed at all. Then Inkibu pulls her close, and the man assures her not to worry, promising to snap off both her legs in an instant. Man, he was ready to smash her, already raising his hammer. But far away, someone was drawing back a bow and arrow. An arrow plunges down from the mountain peak and strikes him squarely in the shoulder. I expected Chad to show up, but instead, Elsa's old crew led by the red-haired guy I once unfairly judged stepped forward and told him there was no escape, so he should give up. Elsa's confused about why they are there, while a laughing demon mocks them, saying, "Humans think they will win just because they have so many of them," which is quite ironic. He readies a strike in his hand and tells Elt to watch closely. She's about to discover the terrible price that defying Lord Zell costs. All of a sudden, a huge sword drops out of the sky. And man, when I say gigantic, I mean bigger than the entire forest. She clutches her head in despair, forced to watch it all unfold. Suddenly, every single person who had rushed to help her was about to vanish into thin air. She screams at the man to stop, promising she will obey. But he turns to her and says, "It's too late now," while the people just stare up at the sky, frozen and not knowing where to run. She screams and cries one last time, but the massive sword crashes down on everyone, and the poor elves are gone. Man, even I feel bad for her now. She just wanted to live in peace, so please leave her alone. The demon laughs, saying it was actually a pretty cool ending. But suddenly, he spots something odd. What could it be? Someone is still alive with just one health point left. It was him, the demon himself, and right under our hero's blade, Chad had blocked the strike. And just like before, the bunny girl was finally useful again, using her teleport power to pull everyone else out from under them. Else knew the two of them, and even the demon seemed to know our boy. He was the very man Zell had spoken about. Hearing that, Naoki shouts to ask if the scoundrel is working with that guy. Before the demon could even reply, Naoki snatched the sword's tip, smashed it, and flung the broken pieces right back at the guy. "Watch out, friend, or else she's still lurking and you'll end up killing her too." Since it was demon magic, he just flicks his finger and sends it flying the other way. The buff demon scoffs at Naoki's impossible stamina for blocking that hit, only to be immediately surprised when the author cuts to a panel of Naoki casually shrugging and saying, "Thanks, no big deal," earning the beast's grudging respect before it growls that Naoki is on his last breath and should just give up already. Naoki laughs and tells them that they are both wrong to think he is weak. Then, take a look. A tiny portal pops up right at Elsa's feet. Man, the two demons are baffled, especially the buff one who realizes bunny teleportation magic only works for short hops. And since she's standing right beside them, that little bit of space is plenty. The girl has suddenly grown brave, diving straight through the demons, and everyone wonders where that courage came from. The buff demon finally sees that Naoki's earlier sword toss wasn't an attack but a clever trick to draw his attention, so she could sneak right up to him. Ribiko shouts, "It's not over yet, man," then zips right in, kicks the demon girl Enkidu in the back, and sends her crashing to the ground. Suddenly, the three girls vanish and tumble together into a new place. At least now he jumps into action, too. She yanks a dagger from her belt and drives it straight into a demon's side. Meanwhile, that little demon girl named Enkidu glances away just as a fireball rockets straight at her. She found herself thrown right into the heart of the crowd of people. The Mohawk guy announced the rescue was a success, and we realized those clever devils had been planning this together all along. Anku is totally shocked as a buff demon tries to move forward, only to get nearly hit on the head by Minyoki, who shouts that the real opponent has arrived, while the demon grins, excited to see what reward Zell will give him for killing the boy. While that happens, the other humans are running away to stay alive. The Mohawk man tosses a small healing potion to Ribiko and dashes off to refill his mana. Els asks why the Mohawk guy is hanging out with those two, and he admits he's been keeping her safe ever since she left the group, proving that love can make people do weird things. Knowing she blamed herself for everything, he quietly stayed by her side from a distance, ready to step in if she needed him. Isaiah High explained that upon hearing the explosions inside the cave, they hurried over and swiftly came up with a plan to rescue her. She might have cried out, "Girl, don't waste your tears," asking why they went so far to save someone who kept pushing everyone away. Suddenly, a guy with a red mohawk steps out of nowhere to declare that her kindness, smile, and very existence are everyone's hope, leaving him forever stuck in the friend zone while the rest of us just roll our eyes. At least she's finally moved on and even apologized for running off without a word. The Mohawk guy says it's all good and that once the game is over, he'll visit the graves of his fallen friends with them. And right then, Enkidu steps right in front of them. With everyone shaking in fear, she steps in to rush the group toward the cemetery. Isoi knew that Ankabe was a level 70 demon serving Zell, making her attacks wildly unpredictable. At first, Everything looked simple since they could plan ahead and catch their opponents off guard. But now she felt doubt creeping in, and she started wondering if she should just run away. Watching everyone, she knows the humans are strong enough, so since she is small, it's best for her to step aside and not get in the way. She's panicking and convinced that running away is her only option. But then, her face shifts and she says no. She was so tired of always running away that by that moment, Isaiah Rabico finally realized his whole life had been filled with shame. She convinced herself no good university would accept her, so she barely studied at all. Once at university, she decided that failing a few classes was okay, so she simply stopped worrying about them. As she grew up and needed to find work, she found interviews so terrifying that she stuck to small, simple jobs instead of trying anything harder. Even when she finally found work, the slightest excuse, like a drop of rain, was enough to make her skip her shift. Without overthinking or looking for an easy escape, she jumped into streaming, but she never managed to get past 53 viewers. She turned to the crowd and admitted that she was too scared of the horror game to keep playing, so she decided to quit. But the audience didn't like that, saying she kept running away and she should at least finish something for once. When she read those messages, she realized they needed to know how terrifying it truly was. Fleeing wasn't such a bad idea in a situation like that. She decided to try a normal game instead and ended up playing Genesis Online, where everyone got trapped. She had always been a coward, a crybaby, terrified of everything. And of course, things just got even worse after that game. She had met the hero Naoki Els and his Royal Guard friends. While everyone else fought without ever turning back, she was different. Two starving people who looked like they were about to die ran straight at Enkidu. The Mohawk tries to tell them to slow down and think first, but it's already too late, and Enkidu just laughs it off as the easy choice before he suddenly drives his knife right through both of their chests. The poor guys collapse to the ground, writhing in agony from the poison, as Enkidu warns that a single hit from her is a death sentence with no antidote fast enough to save them. They were planning to make her suffer a long, painful end. El says that woman is known as the Poison Snake Princess. That was because of her unpredictable attacks and poisons. Yet facing Enkidu was still safer than facing the even stronger Gilga, though she wasn't sure if they could win this fight. She glanced to the side and saw that Rabiko was standing there like a brave man. She stepped up to the front and took charge, guiding the group forward. Enkidu glared right at her, but our girl just held up a hand. And then she suddenly sprinted away, which was pretty strange. Everyone froze in shock while the demon cackled, mocking them as pathetic when in truth, it was the smartest move of all. I thought Rabiko was pulling off some genius plan, but nope, she was actually thinking people don't change so easily and was gonna run for real. Oh, you little rat, she's playing so many mind games and Imani fell for them. She pretended to run away to open a portal and then leapt over Enkidu. She told herself that this time she's just running away along with everyone else. The moment she pins the demon to the ground, she spins around and screams for everyone to strike. Suddenly, everyone grabs a weapon and runs away from the huge storm of things flying at them. The demon tries to dodge, but the blow lands before he can move. Boom! The explosion goes off, but Rabiko manages to get away just in time. Just as everyone was worried about that exact thing, something suddenly flew out of the smoke. Rabiko hits the ground with just 49 HP left, but I'll forgive her this time since she fought hard. The trouble is that Enkaud is changing right before our eyes. Oh no, that dangerous change has made her far stronger, and the monster even thanks them for pushing her into this new form. It would be the perfect way to wipe everyone out there. Else realizes this is the demon's final trick, a move that kicks in the moment her health drops below 30%. They're close, but look at Rabiko. He already lost a hit point, dropping from 300 to 299. A ticking clock counted down the seconds of her short life left, and Enkidu warned that anyone she attacked in this form would be dead within 5 minutes. Else is panting wildly, convinced that everyone is about to die because of her. But now Rabiko is brave, saying that this time they'll survive together. I call her Rabiko short for yaoi Rabiko. And honestly, Rabiko sounds way cooler, and there she was, walking all by herself straight to the boss again. Else watches her leave, shuts her eyes tight, and shouts for Rabiko to hold her ground. Ever since the life of her old path ended, she had vowed never to let her gear be used for killing again. But things had changed, and a window popped up for Rabiko asking if she wanted to take on the messenger's mantle. And just like that, the wild Powerpuff Girls transformation sequence begins. As Rabiko spins around in a dazzling swirl of flashing lights and glittering stars, Elle's mantle is instantly ready, holding items meant to guard her friends. Rabika stands there, eyes wide with disbelief, staring at the gift she just got. While Else tries to explain the armor's powers, the brat won't stop jumping around, and the evil demon girl mocks them by saying she's glad she changed for the funeral since Rabiko only has 248 seconds left. While Rubiko tries to figure something out and L offers to explain the armor's powers, the girl Enkibu refuses to let them sit around planning and instead charges straight at them. Alt quickly raises her shield to trap herself and the group inside a wall, keeping the demon out even as Inkub tries and fails to break through. She fumbles with a spell in her hand to make a poison bomb just as her shield begins to melt away. But the gas is leaking inside, too, and an Inkub warns that soon everyone within will catch the infection. Inside, the shields twist together to form a staircase, allowing Rabiko to scale up to the high ground. Enkidu checks to see if their little plan is finally ready. Rabiko turns a blind eye to her, draws his bow, and shoots an arrow straight at her. The demon grabs it with ease, sneering, "That was such a pathetic trick," and leaps forward with a grin, certain the girl only has harmless magic and nothing worse than a joke, eagerly expecting something a bit more interesting. Right in the middle of the attack, Rubiko suddenly used the special power hidden inside his Tsukiyomi cloak. That cloak could have been from the Akatsuki, and it really looked stylish. Suddenly, Rabiko levitates with the moon glowing behind her as Ku wonders what strange power she just used, right before she vanishes in a flash of teleportation. But this wasn't just any teleport. She opened endless portals because her outfit gave her infinite magic power for 3 minutes. She bounced non-stop from one portal to another, while Enkidu couldn't keep up with her speed. But Enkibu calmed down, realizing that even though the girl was unpredictable, she couldn't do much harm, so it didn't really matter. But Rubiko knew that already, you know? She then used her teleportation power to instantly move the whole group right around Enkidu, who was standing right in the middle of her. All those wild jumps from portal to portal were just a clever trick to catch the demon. And now the fool finally saw that there was no way to get away. She is crafting something special just for Zell. A huge explosion ripped through the middle of the battlefield. And just seconds after the 18-second mark, Rabiko vanished from the count. At last, the mighty poison snake Princess Enkidu was defeated. And though it's heartbreaking to see such a powerful demon fall, it's time to say goodbye. People are cheering, screaming, and leaping into the air in a wild celebration. Als walks over to thank Rubiko, letting him know that without her help, none of them would have made it alive. Rubiko looked so cute, beaming with a smile and saying that she was truly happy to hear it. But now it was time to turn our attention to Hila. Noki was still fighting in the middle of the battle. Rubiko tells him that since her armor bought her 3 more minutes of human life, she's going to help him. Deep in the forest, our boy is still waiting, and his special power is still active. He claims only 3 minutes have passed, but the math breaks down since Enkidu poisoned Rabiko when she had 500 seconds left. Yet the game ended with just 18 seconds remaining, meaning more than 3 minutes had already gone by and our boy activated his skill the moment the sword fell. So either the author missed a big mistake or there's a secret twist where Maoki can somehow turn his power off and on again or make it last longer. He is certain that one solid blow is all it takes to win. But Dan Gilda is surrounded by a storm of weapons, daring Naoki to attack him because once his special power wears out, Naoki will be dead. With courage, Naoki dashes forward. Don't forget, with his power still working, he's down to just 1 hit point. The demon lifts his hand and says he admires Naoki's bravery. Out of all the weapons floating in the air, one is about to strike Naoki. He still remembers how he froze in pure terror the first time he saw this attack. He knows one wrong move means he's dead, so he can't afford to even think twice. Yoga smiles and sends out another wave of attacks, but he didn't expect our artist boy to respond with that swag move, jumping, sliding, and dodging all at once while Hila stares in shock at how Naoki evades everything. Naoki charges forward with nowhere else to go, realizing he must dodge or die. He tosses a few rocks at Hila, but the demon slices them away with a quick swipe of his sword. But in that split second of distraction, Naoki slips past him and aims right for his head. But Hila grins and calls forth more weapons to circle him. In that split second, Naoki realizes he can't dodge this attack and knows he won't win this fight by himself. But hey, look who's showing up again. This sly bunny girl is pulling off another trick. She didn't just say our boy was involved. She's also zipping around the room like a crazy person. She crouches down beside Naoki and flashes him a thumbs up. Yilda can't make sense of things and is desperate to find out what really happened to Enkidu. Rubiko casually throws back a line about losing to the moon while chatting with her friend, leaving the confused demons in the background to suffer. As he calls down a fresh storm of weapons, Rabiko braces herself to teleport away, refusing to let them harm anyone. With that, every weapon is sucked into the portals and disappears into the endless void. Rubiko tells our boy that her magic power will last forever for at least 1 more minute. For a while, he could rest easy because she had his back. Man, Naoki didn't hesitate for a single second. The moment he heard it, he surged forward. Gilda felt a bit annoyed, yet he knew he couldn't lose because he only had 1 life point left. so dodging attacks became his only chance to survive until he could land the fatal blow. The trouble was that Naoki was sliding back and forth just like he had against Enkidu. In that very second, Gilder finally saw exactly how his friend had been beaten. But then he started grinning like a crazy man, claiming he was tougher than her and wouldn't lose. He knew Naoki was his only hope at fighting, so he just had to keep his distance until he could slip past her guard and strike first. He followed Naoki until the protagonist suddenly appeared right behind him. Gilda smiled, knowing he had finally found her. He already knew that Naoki would try to trick him with empty threats before striking from behind. He spun around to unleash a powerful stab, only to find the demon confused while the boy's clone sent a tiny water wave flying. Now that Naoki slips out of Gilda's blind spot, he steps in to land the final blow. He remembered talking to Rabiko about how mixing her clones with her teleportation power created a deadly combination. Now he punches Gilda straight in the stomach. Just as always, the monster vanished completely when the big hit landed, and the rest of the guild rushed over to catch the perfect moment. The clouds clearing, the sun breaking through, and our guy standing tall like a true hero. With General Gilda defeated, our boy finally leveled up. Elle stares in disbelief that they managed to beat that creature all by themselves. Rabiko was waving happily at everyone until the moment the protagonist started walking away. He walks straight up to Elle's and stands right in front of her. I thought he was about to drop a huge line or maybe grab her and kiss her to fix everything right then. But no, man. He stood there awkwardly apologizing for neglecting her feelings after his demons killed his brother. Right then, Rabiko blurts out that his brother is the Hero King. Else whispers quietly to herself, vowing that no one else will ever have to endure what she went through. That's why they must catch that guy. Now he finally speaks the words we've been waiting for, admitting it's a selfish ask but begging her to come along with them. Rabiko admits he's stretching the truth by saying she wouldn't take that so easily, but he insists she's tough and would be a great addition to the team. On top of that, if she keeps wandering off by herself and gets caught by Zell, she might end up losing her life. Else asks if he's certain he won't lose to Zell, showing she wants to take the fight, but if the kid turns out to be weak, she'll be out. But man, the protagonist is super confident because he promises they won't lose, and even if they need to run away, the great coward rabbi knows exactly how to save everyone. Elsa's emotions swell as she turns to the adventurers and declares that for now, she will join these two on their journey. Together, they will bring down the Demon King. Poor Mohawk stays stuck in the friend zone, throwing a tantrum about how dangerous it is, while Elle bows her head and insists things won't get better until they defeat Zell. With their help, she knows they'll make it happen. Poor Mohawk guy looks at the whole group, who just agree without hesitation and say, fine. Then he walks up to our boy and draws a single tiny line between them before saying he knows our boy is strong and asks him to protect the others. Our boy nodded, shook the Mohawk guy's hand, and promised everything was safe, proving once again that bald guys always win. Back at the waterfall, Else turns and tells him she's going. As everyone says their goodbyes and wishes her a safe trip, she sets off on her journey. Our boys vanish into the far distance until they're gone. In the meantime, the Mohawk man told the folks on the ridge to keep a sharp eye on them. But deep down, he knew something dark was watching from above, and it wasn't God or a human, but a demon. A little spy passed a message to Zell, who sighed in disappointment that neither Enkidu nor Gilda had been any help, leaving him to face everything alone since he could no longer count on anyone. He looks over and asks if everyone agrees. Perched atop the mountain, I spotted two people, including one in red gear, who looked way too well-equipped to be ordinary tourists or maybe even game developers. Back with the boys, Rabiko tosses something down to make a thick wall of smoke. Honestly, the girl's only moves are all about getting away. It all makes sense now. Our boy only has 1 health point even when he's at full power, and the secret isn't a new ability but a special item crafted just for her style. If she mixed that power with her clones and teleportation tricks, she could do some truly wild things. The bunny girl is cheering because this trick would be super useful, and it seems the Yoon surprised her by firing a flashbang. With one single throw onto the ground, the entire forest bursts into light. She was so overwhelmed with emotion, rubbing the little balls against her face and saying she couldn't even find the words to say how grateful she was because it was just too good. Else told her not to thank her, and Maoki said it was time to move on, reminding them that Zell was still a player who was evolving, so they needed a drastic way to get stronger if they wanted to beat him. Elle says she gets it, so they start planning how to trick the other players. Rabiko opens the system and promises to check the rankings. Her face shifted as she urged them to look, noting reports of a brawl among the 3 Norse gods. 3 players were among the 10 strongest fighters in the game. Naboki inquires about the events that took place among the snowy mountains. We see what there is, Zell lying dead on the ground. Man, he lost the fight. The demon got wrecked, and the warriors are talking about how the guy with the Demon King title wasn't all that strong after all. The old man begged to be taken to Basilia prison and locked away while he was still too weak to escape. But yeah, Zell wasn't going to go down that easily. Laughing on the ground before standing up, he declared he had been waiting for a chance to fight the strongest players, a crazy move that even earned him a compliment as the little tanker who gave him more trouble than anyone else. He cracks his neck with a casual shrug, claiming everything was disappointing, but the buff warrior tells him to stop making excuses. But the mage warns everyone to be careful, because the wounds they gave Zell have already vanished. The elves wave them off and say there's no need to be worried. Whether you act carefully or recklessly, the ending stays exactly the same. Out of nowhere, a huge dragon swoops down right above them. It seems the transmission suddenly stops or something strange is happening. Rabiko is standing there shaking in fear, saying the 3 players were beaten and have been gone for 3 weeks. Elle says winning is impossible since the top players failed, but Maeoki refuses to believe they're dead and insists on going to rescue them, claiming they might just be missing. Elle admits it's crazy, but thinks going quiet might be their only chance to finally know what really happened. He nods and shouts that the rescue is on, so we head off into the crazy, snowy mountains. Rabiko is clearly freezing to death, and her outfit barely covers anything. Elsa hands out warm drinks to both of them, saying they'll help at least a little. She also notes how strange it is, since there are no monsters around. Noki agreed that the plan was perfect and they would move faster, but right then they spotted a strange figure standing alone in the middle of nowhere. The two spot him instantly, knowing they found one of the 3 great players who was supposed to be dead. The man known as the cold-hearted Loki steps forward, and while Rabiko tries to wave a friendly hello, someone else quickly warns her that something is wrong, for the stranger shouts their names, begins forming a spell in his hand, and commands them to kneel. Mavoki barely dives to safety, dragging the 2 girls with him, and as the guy warns them to be careful, he also begs all 3 of them to like the video so Mamoru can keep making more exciting stuff for his viewers.